Hi, it's Orlando from Keller Williams Realty, and let's discuss appraisal guidelines and verification of employment. Hey, it's Orlando from Keller Williams Realty. I'm here with Blair Chapman from Movement Mortgage, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about the changes that are going on in the lending industry. Blair is going to shed some light on the details in regards to appraisal and then verification of employment. Those are items that need to be done during your transaction. Hey, Blair, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. Thank you. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for having me.
so what I've been hearing was that there are new appraisal guidelines that are going on in the lending industry. Could you shed some light on that?
I think everybody's a little hesitant when you hear new guidelines. What Fannie and Freddie have done collectively is loosen the restrictions or eliminate the need or necessity of an appraisal altogether. So what came out today from both Fannie and Freddie is on loan to values up to 97%, which is their maximum lending capacity on any product, they will offer either a full appraisal would be necessary, a desktop appraisal, which is essentially the appraiser pulls comps on MLS and develops an appraisal without actually visiting the property, or an exterior only or drive-by appraisal where they'll come and take an exterior photo of the property and use the listing agent's interior photos. Another cool feature they're doing here, let me pull up the email so I don't misquote, is they're going to take on appraisals that still require that full interior inspection. Fannie and Freddie have really surprised me here, and they're going to allow for a FaceTime option essentially.
Wow,
So
interesting.
this would be for a scenario where an appraiser is not wanting to go into the home. Maybe the seller has said they're not feeling well, and there's an health risk there, right?
Right.
So what they'll do is
It's
the
4 o'clock.
appraiser will contact the seller via FaceTime. They will walk through the home virtually together, and the seller will snap photos from that FaceTime conference call with the appraiser as they walk through the home. And that will satisfy the requirements for Fannie and Freddie.
Wow, what a difference in guidelines. It's such a big difference with the way they traditionally do this. So just so you know, people as far as buyers that aren't familiar with the process, the typical procedure would be to send an appraiser there in person. You would pay for this appraisal up front, maybe about $500 on average, would you say?
That's accurate or more.
Okay. So depending on the size of the property, it might be more, but you would, as a buyer, purchase the appraisal. The appraiser goes there and evaluates the property. And what Blair is saying is that they are loosening up on their guidelines. They're allowing a desktop review of the appraisal or the value of the house.
Mhm.
In any cases where they need to see it, they're going to FaceTime either the person that's on the property. They're going to allow access via FaceTime to evaluate the property. So that's a big difference in the way we're doing it before. So that's great. That's great news.
There is one other option that I didn't bring up is the PIW or property inspection waiver.
Okay.
The Fannie and Freddie are both loosening their requirements. So over the past several years, every appraisal that's been done on a conventional conforming mortgage has been run through their database, and they've been collecting data. So now they have enough information. The market's been stable and growing. Values are increasing or stabilized. They're confident with a specific address, 123 B Street, Elk Grove, California. They have several comps from prior appraisals of that address's neighborhood that if the property is selling for, sorry, my phone's ringing. a reasonable amount, right? It's not severely inflated,
Right.
but it could trigger a property inspection waiver, meaning there's no appraisal necessary at all.
Okay.
So those requirements are going to loosen up a lot, and we'll see a lot more of those. And in that
Awesome.
case, there's no fee for the appraisal because there's not one completed.
Right. And just so we know, if a buyer does qualify or somebody doing a refinance does qualify for a property waiver,
Mm-hmm.
inspection waiver, are they obligated to pay a higher rate? Are they going to get hit somehow to compensate for that savings?
No, not at all. It's the same rate, the same terms. They would qualify with the property inspection waiver as with paying for an appraisal. So Fannie and Freddie are confident in the valuation when they issue those, and there's no penalty to rate, fees, or term.
Okay, well, it's good to know. First-time home buyers, what about them? The majority of my buyers are first-time home buyers. So are they entitled or do they have a chance of obtaining the property waiver?
Yes. Well, the property waiver, we'll see. I typically the 97% loan to value or low down payment, buyer bringing in less than 20%, we would not see the property inspection waiver. But you know, with these new guides, we just have to start running them and see. But that being said, they would be eligible for a drive-by appraisal or exterior appraisal or even a desktop appraisal. So
Okay.
but ultimately, I think Fannie and Freddie have come together and issued some guidelines that really make sense. They'll keep the process going. It'll keep buyers engaged, enable sellers and buyers to both either sell their property or purchase their new dream home. So it's a great thing they've done to keep this market going.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. They're also doing the verification. They're altering their way of verifying employment as well. Can you talk about that as well?
Yeah, so they've come out and made some, when I say they, Fannie and Freddie again, verification of employment. We will attempt to validate employment via written verification or verbal. Now, if you work for a company whose HR's department's been dispersed, working remotely, and we're just unable to get a hold of anyone or get a response, both Fannie and Freddie now say that a year-to-date pay stub dated within 30 days of our close date will suffice for a validation of or verification of employment. So more great news, less delays, less paperwork, less red tape.
Right. That's awesome. Well, I do appreciate you sharing this information with us. This is great news. For those of you wanting to refinance or purchase a property, they're streamlining the process. So a few changes there. There's also, updates that are going to happen. Keep in touch with Blair at Movement Mortgage. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out as well. All right. Well, you have a great day, Blair. Thank you again for sharing that information with us.
Hey, thank you for having me, Orlando. Have a wonderful afternoon and stay healthy.